We're live.
Hi, welcome to the Blast Network. I'm Jennifer Gligoric, and I'm here today with Tracy Becker and Tracy Hopkins, my fellow Blast Network co-creators, and we want to thank you all for joining us today. The Blast Network was founded so we could reach those of you who, like us, are living your lives on purpose and are reaching out spiritually, emotionally, and even in your business endeavors to live your life in authentic and balanced ways. We are Epic Coaches, ICF Epic Coaches. Tracy Becker is a licensed professional counselor, transformational coach who specializes in advanced energy healing and meditation techniques. She also happens to have the most downloaded meditation apps on both iTunes and Google Play. Tracy Jo Hopkins is the technotherapist and has made a name for herself by working with such amazing companies like Salesforce.com. She's a coach and mentor for anyone who uses or needs to use technology and social media. And I'm Jennifer Gligoric. I own Jennifer Marketing. I'm a managing partner in 9 Gaming Company, and I'm also a published author. We are here because we have a burning desire to share with you our unique and complementary skill sets because we're going to change the world. And today's show is just another step in our journey. We are talking about boundaries, and I'm going to hand it on over to Tracy Becker.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. We are changing the world, and that's so true. And I'm so happy to be here and have my lovely cohorts here and all those people that are listening. Thank you for being here. So healthy boundaries. I'm just going to give you a definition. It's a conglomerate of different people's views and dictionaries about healthy boundaries. But what personal and healthy boundaries are guidelines, rules, or limitations that a person creates to be able to live, work with, or interact with others. The ideal personal boundaries identify personal values, They identify your own personal requests, that highlight your personal preferences, and that means you get to say how people are around you, so you get to have a say, always, your personal preferences. Your level of healing, so you can be with people and set boundaries based on your level of healing, and that way create other people that are willing to do the same. Your personal integrity and values, and in general state an expectation of behavior of others to be in relationship with you, and then also of yourself, because if you're expecting others to act and behave a certain way, then you're going to amp that up for yourself. So we cannot not have personal boundaries, so it's really good to talk about them and go ahead and identify them and communicate them, because people have them and they act inappropriate when people have crossed them, and so it's best not to even go there, right?
Yeah, because in today's freewheeling society, some people, when you bring up boundaries, they automatically think of workplace boundaries. But why are boundaries why are they important to identify personally and both in the workplace?
I know, I think people think they're more like rules, so I want to just clarify. Either they're not rules. People get to choose. There's no punishment other than deterioration of relationships usually. But why they are important is that they generate personal empowerment. You get to say, yeah, this is who I am, and this is what I stand for, and these are what my values are, and this is who I represent in the world, and to play with me, basically, you have to do this. And so that's a really empowering statement, because you're not giving up your power based on how somebody else is treating you and making that be okay for you. It creates self-awareness, because to have those boundaries, you've got to be self-aware of where they are and what they are. It increases your ability to feel safe and therefore be free to express yourself in positive and loving ways. So if you're in any relationship where somebody may not be honoring you, you may have fear around being with them, then that causes you not to be yourself. You're timid, you're second-guessing or doubting yourself in many ways. So having boundaries and being with others that honor those, and you have an ability to identify them, creates a lot more safety in your relationships. And this Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I want to put up my hand and talk to, I think that women especially will have issues with that in relationships because we're taught to go with the flow and to be, and I hate this word, I hate the word because it's got such a bad connotation now, but to be submissive in our relationships, to be giving, to be nurturing, to be supporting, and it seems like boundaries are at a crossroads with that. So I'm like really happy we're talking about that because you can be feminine and you can be supportive and a good wife and a good mother, but yet still have your own personal boundaries. So that's why I like today's topic. I just want to
Absolutely. And when you're talking about in a marital type relationship, then you're creating, it says activate self-respect was the next one, but you're having this self-respect, but also when you're requiring the other person to do that, then they're activating their self-respect. So there's this equanimity of greatness and empowerment and respect that comes from that. So
absolutely,
being in that disempowered, so to say, submissive role serves nobody. It serves nobody. So, and then other ways that are important reasons why to identify is that you decrease that negative emotion, that resentment, the anger, withdrawn, just decrease a lot of negative stories that go on, and that self-protection. A lot of times we get in a self-protected mode. We don't say what we need to say because we're afraid the relationship isn't safe. And then it also increases the opportunity for collaborative and creative relationships. So, wow, who doesn't want 100 million of those collaborative, creative relationships?
Right, and I'm wondering because I think really this subject is really talking to me as well. Really, what happens, and I know I've done this, if when you don't identify and communicate your own boundaries, or if their boundaries are unhonored, or it's anything else, that kind of thing, or you see that from other people, that other people's boundaries are not being honored. But most importantly, you're kind of in a situation where you feel you're doing the best thing that you're possibly doing, and you realize you're feeling, I don't know, that discord or something like that. But what really happens? What are the results? How can we identify if we're in a situation where our boundaries are not being honored?
Yeah, always the first emotional experience is resentment. Resentment, any kind of resentment. If you can be truthful and in touch with your own emotions, resentment is boundaries issues always. And then from that, other feelings, sprout up, like anger, or feeling pressured, or feeling drained and depleted, not feeling lifted up, feeling confused because one day it may be one way and the next day it may be the next way, and feeling taken advantage of. And it goes both ways. So even if you're the one taking advantage of or not honoring somebody's boundaries because you don't know where they are, you can feel that way too. Certainly confused and depleted because there's something missing. There's some clarity missing. There's also feelings of being scared, feeling untrusting, exhibiting control or even abusiveness toward the other can pop up if you aren't communicating your boundaries, identifying them. The opposite of that would be feeling withdrawn or avoiding the other person. Feelings as if you are limited in your choice or you have lost control or any kind of impact in the situation, like well, I don't know what to do, there's nothing else to do. People say that quite a lot, I can't do anything else. That's that disempowered feeling, like you've got no other choice. And then that eventually creates this loss of self-reliance and self-importance. If you feel like you're disempowered and you've got no choice, then you're going to feel like you can't rely on yourself to live your life and be who you want to be. Of course, relationship deterioration, that's what we're basically talking about here. And then eventually, again, a decrease in feelings of love or desire or even to co-create together.
Yeah, I wanted to put in, I know many times, like, it's really funny, and I see this over and over again, how everything's great in the beginning of the relationship, and then all this starts happening, and it isn't exactly the other person's fault. Sometimes you have, I just don't know why. I just don't know why. And they keep on compromising uncompromisable things when they were never asked to compromise those things in the beginning. And so if you just never say, no, tonight I really just don't want to eat Chinese food. You know, I ate it for lunch, and you're always, well, I don't know, where do you want to go? That can escalate to a lot of things. Well, I don't know, what religion do you think the kids should be? Well, you know, and it can get to where a major contention point later on. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I'll talk a little bit more about those things, those reasons at the end of the show about why we don't, you know, create our boundaries. But you just really tapped into it, but I'm going to zip it until then.
Well, I mean, I also, you know, I'm thinking back to this, like, even when it comes to family, you know, when in life where you feel that what you're doing is the best for that person and for you because maybe there was, you know, some breach where you haven't seen them in a while and there's tragedy happened, and then you're doing something that you feel that you were doing something that's right. But then, you know, you're in this small space now, you're together, and you're realizing, wait a minute, things are not as light as I used to have them, and that kind of thing, and you realize, feeling guilty that, no, I brought, you know, this person in my life because I need to help them. We've been through this thing together. So there's that guilt there too of, you know, I do have boundaries and stuff, but, you know, I mean, I'm doing this for the better of both of us, and you know, so I'm gonna definitely wait to hear definitely more here. I just realized that this is really speaking to me, definitely.
Yeah, I guess that brings us right to our next session, the section perfectly. How do we know what are healthy boundaries versus unhealthy boundaries? Because that's really key in identifying what is a reasonable request to keep for yourself and what are unreasonable requests. You're just being, you know, unreasonable, whatever. So, yeah.
Right. And I'm going to talk about normal, kind of reasonable and unreasonable a little bit, and it's not on our what I put down to talk about, but I always think about a continuum, and you have to ask, and you know, when I say that continuum of normal, if nobody's complaining about it or having resentment about it or angry about it, and I mean nobody in your immediate life who's having to deal with you every day, then it's probably working okay. You know, it probably works okay in the realm of normal. But if there starts to be interaction about it or complaining about it or snide remarks about it, then it needs to be addressed, because in relationship, I always think one person's problem is the other person's problem. So, but anyway, some of the things to look for unhealthy boundaries is shame. You know, if you're trying to shame somebody into following your boundaries, or you're trying to control them, like you're like really putting them down and say, you ought to do this, and if you only did this, blah, 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 blah. So those are more like rules and shaming and attempts to control people. If you don't do this, I'll do this, you know, those ultimatums. If you're confused or unclear about your own needs, wants, and desires. So having healthy boundaries really means my boundaries can only be as healthy as my ability to know what I need and want, and to express that without fear. So there's a correlation there.
I'm having a technical difficulty. Hold on for just one moment. I mean, keep on going. I'll be right back.
Okay. So also, if you're rigid with your boundaries and you're really focused on, you know, like rules, like a cop, being a cop in your life, right? I'm going to do this if you don't stop doing this, right? Can't be, you're enforcing them, you know, and that you're in a power struggle with one another. You know, parents get in power struggles with kids all the time. It never works out. Never works out. Everybody's got negative feelings about the other during that. On the other,
yes, definitely. No, I just say definitely. I was agreeing. Sorry.
Okay. And healthy boundaries, on the other hand, look like you know and understand your own level of healing and why each boundary is important to you. So that's what I was talking about. There's a direct correlation between the level of your boundary, the healthiness of your boundary, and your level of healing, where you're at and what you need, so that you can feel safe enough to grow and expand. That you accept responsibility for your own pain and perceptions, and you free the others to do the same. So like I was talking earlier about the self-respect, if you have self-respect and declare your own boundaries, then the other has an opportunity to do that too. You are able to accept the other person's choices, even if it doesn't have the desired outcome that you may be seeking. So they may choose something and you wish they would choose something different, but you're accepting of that. That's having a healthy boundary. You allow them to do what's best for them in that moment. And you're clear and direct with your request. You can say, hey, not really digging what you're deciding to do, but, you know, it's your gig, it's your life, right? That you're flexible and responsive, so that would be instead of rigid and reactive. And so you can give a little. And you have an increased capacity for love and joy and playfulness in your relationships, that you're not constantly, you know, eyeballing the relationship and seeing, you know, kind of, you know, we get that hypersensitivity when we don't have healthy boundaries with somebody, and we're just like, well, what does that really mean? Or what are they really trying to say? And
I had a roommate for 5 years, just going to put this in, and in fact, I had like a little boundary issue just now with the kid. Before that, I lived with someone, and he used to joke, you're HS. And for hypersensitive. You're being hypersensitive, and I would, and it wasn't until I moved out for a brief period of time, and it was not his fault, it was my fault, because you know, finally in the end we had to come up with a little contract, a personal contract. I'd always paid my rent on time, I'd always cleaned up, I never had parties, but it was just our interactions. I always felt stepped on. And we actually sat down there and wrote out, and of course he was an engineer, and we were writing it out, and him and his girlfriend was there, you know, we were just friends, and we wrote it out. You know, I'm not going to say this, if you come home from work, I'm not going to grunt because I found 1 grain of rice in the sink, because he was real inquisitive. And little things like that. It's amazing once you get your voice, learn how to communicate. Most of the time, other healthy, normal people will go, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And then you're like, the relief, the freedom that you can be yourself. It's just incredible. So,
and that great segues right into the next, how you know you got healthy boundaries. You feel liberated, you feel heard, and you feel in your own personal power. And so, you celebrate. Yeah, you enjoy, you celebrate, and that there's no more power struggles. So.
Absolutely.
Which sounds awesome, but I just would love to know why we don't have healthy boundaries. What makes us not have those healthy boundaries? I mean, it just seems like, you know, we just fall into it.
Right. So I have a few reasons why, and I also have some resolutions, and I'm not going to go into great depth, but, you know, I think you can at least get started. So one of the reasons why people do not create healthy boundaries is that they believe that they are the victim in most any situation, that someone or something else is responsible for the issue they perceive to be having. So if you in your mind are constantly, it's this person's fault, it's the politician's fault, it's whatever, you know, it's, you know, even entities that don't even exist, people blame all kinds of things for their problems. But if you're one who really is not willing to take self-responsibility and you really concrete it into a victim mentality, then you're not going to have healthy boundaries at all. And you're going to attract to you people that are going to take advantage of that, and they're going to like spew their boundaries on you, and they're going to have rules, and they're going to shame you and control you and all those things.
I want to add to that for people. One good thing, sometimes you have to be through this before you can really pinpoint and understand it. The people that don't take responsibility, it's varying scales of victimhood. But if you are fairly normal and you're in a relationship and you start dating someone and right out of the box, you're thinking, well, that sounds like that was your fault, or that sounds like something you need to get over. Like they are just regurgitating past hurts that happened decades ago, or past divorces where it just seems like they're not getting over anything.
Yeah.
And that goes far beyond just a healthy boundary. That can be a serious issue. So run.
Yeah.
You gotta run from it, because the people who have unhealthy boundaries aren't just us, you know.
Yeah.
People, you know, the more you are aware, the more you can be aware of people who are toxic and people who are harmful to you. They're, you know, look at any Lifetime channel movie, right? It all starts out, but it all starts out with someone who seems normal, but she has boundary issues, you know, gets swept up in a whirlwind romance. It seems too good to be true by someone who also has major boundary issues, and before you know it, you know, he's faked his own death and is living something horrible. So that's a big one to me.
Yeah. So resolution: accept full responsibility for creating and manifesting the life that you are experiencing, and take steps to empower yourself to make the necessary changes you desire. So really, when we take full responsibility, it's only there's only a few things to take it for. It seems awkward, but it's not. Your thoughts, right? You take responsibility for your thoughts, you take responsibility for your feelings, and you take responsibility for your actions, and then you take responsibility for whatever shows up. So for your experience, your perception. So really only those 4 things, and it covers everything else. So I don't have to go looking for where I need to take responsibility. You just check in with those 4 things. And, you know, is it my perception? Is it my thoughts? Is it my feelings? Is it my actions? And actions also includes words, how I'm speaking to myself and others. So, all right. One of the next reasons why people don't have healthy boundaries is they don't have enough emotional healing. And I talked about that already a little bit. So trying to look here. Okay, as I wanted to talk about something and I didn't put it in here. I don't know why, because it's a lot of people do not set healthy boundaries because they are afraid of the consequences. And
that's a big one.
Yes, because as long as they pretend and they're in this fantasy relationship, I might be talking about this later, but I'm talking about now. They're in this fantasy bond in this relationship and thinking things are going great. But if I set a boundary, that person may leave, you know. But you want to do that. You want to set those boundaries up front that are important to you so that you're not wasting time getting bonded or invested in a relationship where that other person is not capable or willing to, you know, play in that co-created collaborative place with you.
That's a huge one. I mean, how many times do we work with people as coaches, and it's not just in personal relationships, business relationships.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, and I'll, you know, because I'm a career coach and this is what I do, but employee issues, I'm consistently amazed at business owners who are either walking all over or getting walked all over for employees, and they say, what if they quit? Well, what happens if they quit? Well, if that person is not respecting their job, they're not respecting you, they are causing such negativity in the workplace that it's become a big problem and issue with morale. They, you know, make other employees so unhappy they want to quit. Then what are you so really afraid of?
Right.
And usually the fear is not that. The fear, you know, you have to follow that fear thought down to where you get down to, well, they do this job, and this job. I don't have anyone to do that right now. So when I get the business owner to say, okay, let's talk about these jobs. Okay, now who do you think could do this one part of that? Can you do this part of that? What can you bring in for this? Can we bring in a temp for that? And once you take care of the end fear, then they are like, yeah, I'm going to let him go. But you always have to now talk to them first. They may not even be aware of it, especially times when I'm called in. This is a 20-year friendship employee. They've had barbecues, they've had this and this and this and this. And so it just evolves unhealthily over time to where it becomes very toxic. But it doesn't mean it's not fixable. As long as they're a healthy person, healthy emotionally to begin with.
Right.
Some people are not, and they need a psychiatrist. They need help because they're not in a good place. But, if they are not in that place, then they can be redirected and anything can change. So that's a real big one. That's a good one.
And the resolution for that one is examine within yourself your beliefs and your primary negative emotions that keep you stuck and cause you to hurt others, and seek out help so that you can overcome this and live in joy. And one of the things that you were talking about, Jennifer, is like people, when you get in that place, you automatically think back to that lack and limitation, scarcity, and poverty, right? There's nobody to do that job. The same thing happens, where bosses bully people. And people are afraid, well, there's no other jobs, or I'll never find a job that pays me what I'm getting paid now. I'd just rather die 20 years prematurely, right?
You helped me through that
because of my work, right?
I should not sue. This is what I had. I'll be very honest. I should not sue this client who, this personal thing who owed me this because they might do this, they might do that, and I let fear dictate my entire life and let me live, and I was living in the paucity and being scared, and I was getting sick. And then when I finally established a boundary and did what I was supposed to do healthily, it was amazing. Little things started opening up. This little opportunity, this little opportunity. I was the one keeping the other opportunities. I felt like I was out there and doing other stuff, but the universe did not feel the same way energetically, only until I closed that. Right. And so, I think that's a...
And then you took your power back. You took your power back. You said, no, I'm not playing with you with these rules or this game anymore. So.
Yeah, you can take your sticks. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me.
Right. So another reason is lack of self-awareness, and we've been talking, about that. So you have to know who you are, what you need to be safe, and if you've come from a highly, I'll just use the word dysfunctional family, you may not know what you need. You may not know what it feels like to be safe, and so. But that taking that time for self-awareness and self-actualization studies, so you can examine that. What would be the ideal here? If I had like the picture-perfect relationship, how would we be together in this relationship? And, I'm using just the word relationship generally, but, it can be personal, it can be professional, it can be community-based, whatever.
Absolutely.
We're all in relationship with everything all the time. So you want to spend more time going within and realizing that your reality is your reality because of your own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions. And you make that deep commitment to find out where's your peace, where's your acceptance, where's your forgiveness, where's your soft place, and identify certain behaviors in other people that you feel good with. That's what can help you too. Who do I feel my best with? So another way is because of codependency. Right? The gazillion books written on codependency, if you've ever been in the substance abuse community, in Al-Anon or AA or NA, or know somebody that has, it's just part of that. And I think we all, to some degree, I think it's a continuum of codependency too, because if you really in a collaborative, loving relationship with somebody, you always want them to be happy, and so you do things at times that you may not do so that you can create that happiness. But mainly you just have to stop putting others before yourself, and practice more self-love, self-healing, and self-actualization, and dive deeply into the things that make you happy and bring you joy. And don't do anything for anyone else unless you can do it without expecting something in return. That's a really good one. I have a lot of people that come up to me and they're they're just overwhelmed. Their house is overwhelmed because they say yes to everything, and that's a sign of codependency. Say yes to everything, everybody, every committee, everything. All their kids, their spouses, blah 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 blah, their work, and you're not going to turn a yes person into a no person overnight. So what I asked them to do is, will you just, every time somebody asks something of you, because now everybody knows they say yes, just say, I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Let me think about it.
Yeah, I don't even have to say that. Just say, I'll get back to you tomorrow. But that's really what it is, to think about it, to sit with it, and to see if it's really going to improve the quality of your life and your family and all of those things. So just make sure it's 100% yes, because it feels 100% good to you, not because, oh, they're expecting me, oh, I'll hurt their feelings, oh, they won't understand. Boy, here, I'm in the South, and that's like epidemic, pleasing other people and being sweetsy, so that
well, this is a big one, because I remember going to a meeting once, and I had a huge blow up with someone over a boundary issue, and it's just funny how sticking up for yourself, in some ways you can be called codependent from someone who's not coming from the right place, even though you're the one who's trying to set a boundary. And so, so somebody said, you don't have to make, she told me, she goes, you realize you don't have to make a decision right now. You don't even have to speak to them if you don't want to. You can say, I'm still thinking about this. Mm-hmm. Because when you get into a fight, a lot of people, their first thing is, well, let's fix it. And they will compromise on, rather than let it just be tense. Mm-hmm. Let it be tense while you figure out, am I still going to stick to my guns? Is this still something I really feel important about, and that I should stick to my guns about, and let the other person come around? If you do not want to give up something that you feel is healthy and good for you, or even if it's a business thing, even if it's with an employee. And I think the thing is giving yourself time. It's okay to do, even if it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It's perfectly acceptable.
In a collaborative relationship, you can really create space for that and let that person have that process. And even if that one person's agitated and they're uncomfortable with that process, it's okay. Nothing bad's going to happen. You just create that space and that allowing for that to happen.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And then the last reason that people do not set boundaries that I've written about for us to talk about today is that they don't trust that they are lovable with their boundaries.
Yeah.
And so if
it's a deal killer. If I do this, it'll be a deal killer.
Yeah, and it's conditional, right? Oh. So that if I say I really don't want to cook dinner every night, I'll cook 2 nights a week, then they're afraid somebody's just going to say, well, fine, I guess I'll go get a new wife. I don't know what they think they're going to do, right? Right? I don't know. But there's if you don't talk about it, you can't come up with solutions. You can't be collaborative and creative and expansive and just make that decision. So if you don't want to cook 2 nights a week, well, maybe on those 2 nights you cook double the amount, so then we're covered for 4 nights, and then I'll catch the rest, whatever, right? I just don't know. That's a silly example, just came to my head.
No, that's a good example.
Yeah.
Another example is what I find in businesses, or anyone who works, this goes for employees and employers, is coming in early and staying late. That is one where this happens all the time. There are some people who will come in early every single day. That's what they do, and then the employer starts to expect it, and then they don't, and they get some sort of grief. And that's the time where you would say, now wait a minute, I'm able to do that on these days, but that's not an expectation of my employment. We never really talked about that. And when you talk about that right ahead of time, it all gets out in the wash. The unexpected overtime. Employers will do this more often than not, I see, especially small businesses. We're small, work a little over, I'll make it up.
Right.
But they don't understand that, or I've seen that many employers do not understand that employees have an internal time clock. they will take back those hours or that time or that extra work one way or the other.
Right.
If they are not remunerated for it, then they're going to take an extra lunch. They're
Right.
going to stroll in late. Well, I already worked late on Tuesday, and it'll become a very uneven balance. Whereas these little things, whether it's dinner or it's overtime or it's, being asked to work on a weekend when you just can't, with saying, well, wait a minute, let's talk about this. Is this a one-time deal? What's going to happen with this? Will I get, what is the expectation, and will I agree to that expectation? And when you can do that, you're so much more happier, and the other person is too.
Well, and what you just described for the employee was resentment, right? They're going to get their time, and that's because now they're resentful, and payback is on the way, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So what are some steps, now that we're moving on to the other one, steps that everyone can take to start setting healthy boundaries?
Yeah, definitely you got to check in with yourself. And even if you just do that, if you're a person that doesn't have a clue about their boundaries or realizes by listening to this show that you probably could use some work, then just every day, even at the end of the day, just recall your day and just look at, where is a place there where I felt some resentment, I didn't feel safe, it just wasn't clear, or I just didn't have like more happy, joyful, co-collaborative kind of feelings. And then write what was going on. Just write about that for yourself. What was going on for me here? What boundary do I perceive to be crossed or was crossed, or what boundary am I tapping in for myself that I haven't identified before? So it's got to take some self-exploration. And so even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes before you go to bed, just kind of get your journal out, review your day, and see where those negative feelings or that judgment, judgment and criticism, right? When we start judging or criticizing somebody else, that's a good place. Like, was there a boundary crossed there? What was an expectation I had that maybe I wasn't communicating, and just do that. And then you set an intention, and so I've just kind of covered that, to discover what the boundary is, So as far, step 1 and 2 go together. So is there a boundary here, and what might that boundary be? And start playing around with communicating, about it. What is that boundary?
Yeah, I would say in business, don't just do this for, I get it all the time. People have extreme resentment in their work life towards their coworkers, towards, coworkers who pile on extra work on them, who assume they'll cover a shift for them.
Right.
Bosses who they feel are taking advantage of them, or resentment at the workplace is huge. So, and what's really weird about it is you have a contract at a workplace. There is I show up here, you pay me this much money, and then I leave. It's pretty cut and dry. It's not like that in relationships. So you need to be more, I guess, it's like they are less willing to set a boundary at work when you already have a contract.
Right.
It should be opposite. You should be more willing to put your foot down at work. When it is your personal life, it's kind of like, well, it's kind of touchy-feely and all that. And so I think that if that happened, more people would just be so much happier, because we spend the majority of our time at work, with these other people, and you need to have that.
And I think a good thing, an assessment, is the threes. If it happens 3 times, then you really need to take a look at it. So if it happens once, okay, it happens. It wasn't your preference, whatever. If it happens again, you just note, okay, this is very similar to what happened, a few months ago or the other day. And then especially if it happens a 3rd time, then it's a pattern, and you're part of that pattern because you're having the perception of all of this happening.
Right.
And the other person is co-creating that with you. And so really at that point you want to have some communications first with yourself so you get clarity, and then you can take that to them. And that's what number 3 is about. When you're clear about it and you can write down your boundary, and you can take self-responsibility, saying, hey, I didn't even know I had this boundary, but I realized because of some of the things that happened to me in the past that I'm uncomfortable with this situation because it's, it reminds me of that, and I'm not quite there, right? I can't really meet you there yet. So I also wrote a little script, an example, and
I like it.
and you can modify it any way you want to, but it says, I noticed that I feel blank. And so this is going to be a negative feeling. I feel angry, resentful, frustrated, irritated, disappointed, sad, left out, lonely, blah, 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 blah. Whenever blank happens, so you describe the situation. And then it's like, I want to improve this situation with you. I want to improve the quality of our relationship. I want to get more co-creative and collaborative with you, and I want to feel more joyful. So I have an idea of a request that we can throw out there, and what do you think? Are you up for the possibilities? So then you invite that person, can you join me co-creatively and collaboratively in this process? So.
I think this is really awesome. I think because we have time left, that maybe if we could do some examples to get more clarity for people that are listening in. These steps to set a healthy boundaries, I think everybody has something right now, if they're not already clear with who they are, really needs help with setting their own healthy boundaries, because we all deserve to have happiness and joy in our lives, and what we set that's happy and joy. And I think if we maybe do like one or two good examples, and then go through it with this. Hey, Jen, you got something for her?
Okay, yeah, the first one. Okay. You work at a small to medium-sized company, and you have a coworker. She's a colleague, but she's been there 2 years, or she or he have been there 2 years senior to you.
Mm-hmm.
Not once, but in the 3 times now, she has asked you to do some extra work for her. But the last time it's went up in time to where you were able to do it through the workplace the first time. The second time, it made you a little late getting home. The third time, it was a weekend deal. Like you would have to do that, but it was a group project now, and she really leaned on you heavily, and you're feeling massive resentment because it's one of those places where you don't want to be a snitch, you don't want to not be part of the team. How do you take care of that with this coworker?
I'd invite her out to lunch.
Good, yeah.
And I'd get her out of the workplace scenario, and I would do exactly what I've said here. I say, I realize that we all work together, and we really, we want to work collaboratively. We want to be happy when we're counting on each other to get jobs done. And then sometimes I do this confusion kind of thing. I'm not quite understanding why I'm having to do more than I thought was my responsibility. Can you help me understand that?
Oh, that's a really good one. Okay, so let's say she replies back very defensively. Well, you knew this was, this isn't going to happen all the time, blah, 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 which is something I would want to hear. Oh, good.
Right.
Make sure that it doesn't, right? But, very defensively with that. How do you smooth the defensive over and yet establish your boundary to where it gets smoothed off? Like, you knew why that happened. I mean, blah, 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 blah. So I always had to work late, and you better be glad it's me and not, Bob, who just left, and he did this and blah, blah, blah. That's the response, because that's what I get from people more often than not. They usually bristle up and then try to make you feel a little bit grateful.
Right.
So
the typical unhealthy way to handle defensiveness is to create your own defensiveness, right?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Right. So you just move into that, and you might say, "Wow, I'm sorry that I caused so much tension. That wasn't my intent here, and I didn't understand that." The project was going to take more, so I apologize for that. I must have just missed that or zoned out in the meeting or something. So again, take as much responsibility as you can for that taken. I guess I wasn't as clear as everybody else. So can we redefine it together now so that I'm really clear and I know what's expected of me?
I love that. That's so positive. I love that. I mean, I already have the things I tell them, and it's to yell at them and throw your coffee. No, I'm kidding.
Right. That's what we all want to do, right? Yeah.
Because you're going to be the boss someday. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Not to do that. But I like that because it's positive. You take on your responsibility, but at the same time, you are still, asking for, clarity on that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing to continue to do it because the people might, don't be so serious. That's another thing you can get. Oh, don't be so serious. It's not that big of a deal. And what they're doing is telling you that your feelings and your emotions are not that big of a deal.
Right.
But
and
they are.
Just say it is a big deal to me. Yeah. To me, it is a big deal because I have plans with my spouse. I have children. I have commitments, and I'd like to. I would say I'd like to have my life in balance. And feel like I'm in control of a healthy balance in my life.
I love that. I absolutely love it. This is like a big one because I hear this a lot in different and varying scenarios, and it's always such a sticky thing. People get so nervous to set boundaries because they want to be liked. They want them to like them. They don't want they have this fear that there will be reprisals. And I don't know, it's because of movies on TV, The Bad Boss. You remember that movie, Bad Bosses, with Jennifer Aniston? That was it was awful.
Yeah.
And, things like that. They're just afraid.
Yeah.
So when you can...
And always remember, when we go to that fear place, we're in that lack, limitation, scarcity, and poverty, and we think that, we shrink, right? And then we blame somebody else for our shrinking.
Absolutely. And really, it is your responsibility to set your boundary. And sometimes you might be an adult, you might be 50 years old, it might be scary, but yet that's part of growing up. And it's part of moving forward and being enlightened. And
one of my favorite things in life is do-overs, right? If you spit up on somebody, then you're just like, you know what? I so spit up on you. I realize I did it. It was just wrong of me. And can I try again to communicate myself a little bit clearer?
Yeah, that's
that's a work thing that let me see if I could do, because we have good 15 minutes left.
Yeah.
If we could do something in the personal life. And I see this happening a lot also with people with with their children and stuff, the healthy boundaries that they have with their children. Not just the ones that maybe have those they're more in the caretaker, like they feel like they have to do more for like one of their children that they need to have help with, that they're just not setting boundaries because they're doing everything for these children, making sure they're all happy, making sure the basic needs are fed, but they feel like all their energy has to go to the kids because they want them to be happy and be fun and everything, but at what cost is their self? So I mean, where do we, maybe for the personal side of it, for maybe those people that are taking care of their kids and everything like that, there's got to be a healthy boundary for themselves, that they need to be for themselves, but also let the kids have their own, to be what they need to be as well. And I know I see a lot of the parents, either it's even overprotective or maybe not as, that you just see a lot of people doing so much for their kids when if you just let them go or let them be. Right. I don't know. Or, a mixture of any of that. How do you deal with a parent, that's trying to take care of kids, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so many dynamics in that. So the first way you said it with a caretaker, I have a personal experience with that. When I was a teacher, before I became a counselor, I was a teacher. And when I moved from North Carolina to Oregon, they transferred my license to elementary school when I had only taught middle school and high school before. And I don't know why, but that was what I got, and I needed to work. So I was teaching 3rd and 4th grade. It was a combo. Now, I picked older kids because I don't really want kids in my space. I don't want them touching me. I don't want them whining about erasers or pencils or crayons. I don't want to do that. I know my boundaries, really clear about that. But I needed to work, right? So here I got, and it was this great school and this great administrator and everything, so I had this job. And every day I walked in pissed off. And I realized I am pissed off at these kids for doing what 3rd and 4th graders do. They were just being them, where every 9 and 10-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever that age range is, I first, then for me, I had to take responsibility. It's me that's pissed off, it's me that's uncomfortable, and so how am I going to solve this? So what I did, every day I came in and I started appreciating these kids. There's always that few little minutes of like when they're doing announcements, you're taking roll, it's like a 10-15 minute gap. And lots of teachers may have kids read or do math problems or different things go on there. But I decided every day I would come in and I would go around to each kid and I would say one thing that I liked about that kid and appreciated about that kid every day. And then we set a timer. I got a little timer, and we set it for 60 minutes. And so that meant that every hour that timer would go off. And so my deal with the kids was whenever that timer went off, whoever wanted to or felt inspired to, one of the kids would get up, look around the room, and find 3 other kids to appreciate in that time. And I said, no matter if I'm lecturing, no matter what's going on, we will all stop and do that. And we did that all throughout the day. And then I implemented group. I implemented psychosocial group.
Man, you went from like bad teacher to cool teacher. That's awesome.
So we would have a group every week, and we scripted it, and so all the kids could talk to each other about issues that they had with each other, and that even if they had them with me, Miss Becker, you yelled the other day and it totally scared me, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm busted, right? so we had a problem-solving group, and then and when they just so loved it, they just all started growing so rapidly at that time. So then I put this little piece of carpet on the back of the classroom, so that if they had an issue that they felt was urgent and needed to be resolving, they could go back on that carpet with their friend and resolve that. And as long as they were on the carpet, I didn't bother them. And because I was respectful, they were respectful. They didn't take advantage of that, and then they just come back and get busy. And then there was a big poster, and they said, I can solve my own problems, and they'd all go sign their name every time they solved their problem by themselves.
I love that.
So I didn't have to worry about erasers and pencils and crayons and all that elementary school stuff that I didn't want to deal with, because I taught them how to do it. and I got to enjoy them so much more.
And that's just from you clarifying your own healthy boundary right there.
Right. I realized it was me. Yeah. I was the problem. I had a perception that these kids were acting crazy. Right? They were bothering me, or they were inappropriate, they were too much work or too noisy or whatever. I don't even remember why I didn't like them, because now I'm cool with that. And then that's another thing about your levels of healing. I mean, that was more than 20 years ago, and so my levels of healing, my healing has increased. So I mean, I wouldn't have been bothered by that now like I was then. So
yeah, I want to say that one of the things I've noticed on the parent thing is that I see so many parents who have their children in 1,000 different things. They're not just taking them to piano lessons, or they are taking them to soccer. These kids do soccer, Boy Scouts, piano lessons, this, and dance, and you're just like, that's overwhelming. Yeah. And then they don't understand why their marriages are failing. And I want to just say specifically, kids really only need one activity, and that's it. And their best activity is just hanging out with you and watching their dad fix the car, or you, if you're a single parent, do something. And that if you are in a loving relationship, in a parent, like you're a marriage, that is the thing that's going to influence them the most. This is my personal opinion. My personal opinion is,
well, I agree, because
do that. Go ahead.
The kids get anxiety disorders because they're on constant high busy. What's going to happen now? And and parents will come in and talk to me, and they're like, my kids are always asking what's next. I was like, yeah, because they're just like, they don't know what's next. Their life doesn't have that predictability and the schedule is so erratic and so here, there, and everywhere. And you have to remember as a parent always I'm teaching my kids something. Always I'm teaching my kids something. You know, and so
the
what am I teaching them?
Yeah, and the ability to self-soothe.
Yeah.
And having the ability to do nothing and to take a center or say, we're not doing anything right now. We're going to do this, and you're going to have to go in your room and don't make a mess, or do this, and not have that frenetic activity constantly of go here is important. And then not forcing them to do activities that they hate to do, like, okay, you can see it on the TV, the dance moms, and you see the kids having complete breakdowns. They don't want to do it that day, and they're 4. No, this is something you've got to do, and if you were an adult and you were this, or taking them to a game on a 100-degree day, it really isn't that important.
Right.
In the end of it.
And parents.
Well, how do you, as a parent, do that though? How do you actually you say, you know what, I know I need to work on my healthy boundaries. How can I, as a parent, or as a person, maybe a guardian, or something that help somebody else, help someone young that's learning have their own boundaries? Because I know now, and even my youngest, it's just the influence that she's getting in school. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're thinking about that. She's only going to be 12, that kind of thing. I need her to have her set up with her own boundaries. How do I, as an adult, just tell her it's okay for her to have healthy boundaries, and how do I address it? Do I just use these steps here, or because right here, I don't know if this is what she would get at her level. I mean, how do I tell her whatever she feels is happy, and not what she thinks somebody else thinks is going to be happy?
Well,
how do we?
Yeah, you talk to her about how she feels, and you really go into that, because it's more about a feeling. If you're feeling happy engaging in a certain activity or talking about a certain subject, and it lifts you up and it makes you feel good about yourself, then you want more of that, right? But if you feel uneasy, or you feel, especially girls, they have such a way to hurt other people or make you feel not included or less than if you don't do a certain thing, wear a certain pair of shoes, or a certain color beret, or whatever it is, So yeah, you do. You help her get that self-awareness, and let her emotions guide her boundaries, so that
and you run into the I don't know a lot, because I think her biggest thing is like, if
I
she
don't
had
know
a choice,
means I'm scared to say.
Right, and you can tell that you're like, you know what, I needed to, kind of like that confusion thing. You need to kind of like ask it in a different way without her realizing you're trying to get the results out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Well, then you can say, if it were me, I would feel like this. Or you could say, when I was younger, something similar happened to me and I felt this way. Or I heard a story about a little boy who felt this way. Or you start teaching her, you get those feelings charts. There's some cute magnets, like refrigerator magnets that have all feelings with, and you just kind of go through and pick them out. And you can do a diary back and forth with each other, either through email or a little diary, and every day talk to each other about those kind of scary things. But you have to model it. You have to, more than anything, you have to model it. And
Christy Whitman, just FYI, Christy Whitman has an empowered child program.
That's right, she does.
And I have part of that program for my son, and it talks about feelings and emotions. But I think the biggest thing in setting boundaries when you're little is making sure the child themselves has a good self-esteem, and then they know that there is a soft place and unconditional love to fall on. If they have a very strong home and a strong you, and they feel good about themselves, they'll be more willing to go, to a friend of theirs. I think that's an integral part of it, rather than, stuff.
Well, I think also to her parent, though, I mean, you also want them to be empowered to say no to the parent, because I think and I've seen this, and that one parent might be more authoritative, and one, that kind of thing, and it gets scary when you tell your parent no, because there's some things that you said no to and you got in trouble for.
Right.
They better not tell me no. No, I'm kidding.
So you can use that script, Tracy, Joe, and anybody listening.
Okay.
You know, I feel scared, or I feel really overwhelmed when I have to do all these things, or I feel scared when you ask me to do something and I'm uncomfortable with it, you know, because maybe somebody made fun of me before when I did it, or whatever reason, you know, a gazillion different reasons. But that script works really well. And always teaching kids how to identify their emotions. And you do that by, you can look at your kid and you know whether they're happy, sad, disappointed, lonely, bored, whatever. You just say it to them. You look bored. You look sad. And they'll either say, yeah, I am, or they'll say, no, I'm not, I'm really mad, or no, I'm not, I'm sleepy. You know, they'll either agree with you or correct you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, that's true. Definitely, and it is you know, been an hour. Do we have anything else anybody wants to share? Before we
I think this is a great show, y'all. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just let you guys know, when we talk about, we have a, you know, the script that we're reading from, or not really a script, it's a piece of paper that we're going to have actually up for you. It's a PDF, and it's going to go over all the steps of the healthy boundaries that we also went through today, and also the definitions Tracy had stated, and also why they're important and what happens. So that way you can have it with you and look back at it. There's also reasons why people do not have the boundaries with the resolutions on there that we talked about also. Let you know that if you have any questions, you can email us. You can email Tracy Becker at tracy@theblastnetwork.com. You can email Jennifer at jennifer@theblastnetwork.com, and you can email me at tracyjoe@theblastnetwork.com. If you want to email us all, I believe you can go to info@theblast.com, and we all will get that email. We also, if you want to write something inspirational that you found through the show, we are on Twitter, The Blast Network. You can do a hashtag, The Blast Network. We'll get that way, or you can look for The Blast Network online on Twitter. Also, we are on Facebook, The Blast Network. Also there, if you want to like our page or put something inspirational in there, because to be honest, whatever you're going to put down on there, somebody else is going to find inspirational as well. So just think your voice is also going to inspire others, as we, you know, hopefully inspire you. Tracy, if you want to get a hold of Tracy Becker, also outside of the Blast Network, she also has tracybecker.com. She has right now, because I know I get them every week, these wonderful weekly I would say newsletters, but it's not quite a newsletter, but she has these wonderful, inspiring videos with their own special topics, and it comes out weekly. And if you want to get on that newsletter list right there, go to tracybecker.com. I believe it's on the home page, and just fill out your email address, and you will get a part of it every week, every Thursday, I believe, is the blast. And it's very, very inspirational. I know Jennifer, she's got some. If you have any questions for Jennifer for business, as you can tell that she's really, really big at business coach. If you have questions, you have employees, you need to hook up with Jennifer. I have, Jennifer, do you have the website? Is Jennifer?
JenniferMarketing.com. I put it on the chat, but yeah.
It's on the chat. Okay, great. We also have all of our information at theblastnetwork.com. Any of our past recordings we're also going to have there on there. And if you do have a testimonial, let us know, because we will put it right on the website for you, because we are very, very grateful for everybody that said something for us. If you want to get a hold of me outside of this, I also have Tracy Joe at the Blast Network, or you can go to Tracy Joe at techno-therapist.com, because I own www.techno-therapist.com. And I want to say thank you from all of us for participating in this. I do have to give a little shout out, because my sister Becky's listening, and my niece is my nephew. I've got Brianna, Emma, and I've got Jacob out there listening, and hi to my daughters, Annabelle and Autumn. Okay, sorry, I just had to say that. No. And anybody else? I just want to say thank you to everybody. And
next month's show. Next month's show.
Yeah, next show. Yes. Yes. The next show, sorry about that, I get so
Okay.
excited. It is actually going to be July 12th. It's on a Saturday at 2 p.m. It's going to be about freedom, financial, emotional, mental, and spiritual freedom, and I believe we're going to have something special happen that day. I know I'm working on a gift for somebody, so, just if you attend, you may get a nice little gift from me or one of the other wonderful ladies here. Okay. Anything else that I missed? I hope not.
Yes, our sponsors. Don't forget, of course, all the websites that we talked about earlier, then anbest.com and 9gamingcompany.com. And I just want to tell
spell
my
the 9.
NINgamingcompany.com, and you guys, because I know you're going to watch this later, finish the map. Amanda, we're working on this map. They got to finish the map. So.
Oh, I thought you said math.
Map.
Okay, definitely. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to my fellow co-hosts, and we will see you on the other side.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.